Hello, my name is Josh Livingston, and I want to welcome you to my presentation on condom use and HIV intervention among urban men who have sex with men. The public health problem that accounts for the highest risk for HIV transmission is unprotected anal sex among men who have sex with men. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, sexual contact between men accounted for 68% of new cases of HIV in the United States, and the practice of barebacking, anal intercourse without a condom, accounts for the highest risk of transmitting HIV. This presentation will analyze health behavior theory in order to evaluate effectiveness of condom use as a health behavior. Men who have sex with men as an at-risk population have historically been tied in particular ways to urban public space. It is well documented, for instance, in the landmark ethnography Gay New York, that gay and queer identity in many ways was cultivated and developed within urban spaces. This includes a variety of cultural codes, covert communications, and shared practices. Queer theorist Michael Warner has written about how men who have sex with men populations function as a counterpublic, that is, a public that is consciously or unconsciously aware of its subordinate status in the public sphere. As such, it is imperative that the health behavior theories account for the particular social and environmental determinants of health that are prevalent in urban spaces. Ecological and structural models for public health open up comprehensive ways of addressing health behavior change, taking into account such theories as minority stress theory and intersectionality. The twinning of religion and sexual ethics in the American public takes for granted the inherent moral value of notions such as purity, cleanliness, monogamy, and family, all within the dominant frame of heteronormativity. It is also important to acknowledge how, for a queer counterpublic and its citizens, even a practice as stigmatized as cruising is an important way of situating yourself within a shared community. It is precisely this level of common practice and discourse that constitutes a world where HIV prevention can develop in organic and effective ways, in counter-distinction to the dominant sexual ethics of heteronormativity. It is such a phenomenon that results in cultural practices such as cruising. Cruising in gay culture is not as stigmatized within the culture like the ways it is in heteronormative culture. In fact, cruising is not only an acceptable way of participating in gay public life, but it is also a social laboratory for the development of increased safety and health behavior. Health promotions that are steeped in heteronormative biases and rely upon fear appeals will not only miss the targeted populations, they will largely prove ineffective for changing health behavior. The health behavior theories covered in this presentation are the health behavior model, protection motivation theory, the trans-theoretical model, and social cognitive theory. Health behavior model is a value expectancy model that uses benefit and cost comparison for rationalizing health behavior change. Protection motivation theory is a communication theory that considers the cognitive complexities behind fear appeals. The trans-theoretical model is a model for health promotion that describes the stages and mechanisms that people use to modify health behavior. Social cognitive theory emphasizes how the health behavior of persons are always shaped and contextualized within the social environment. For Bohr and Emmons, protection motivation theory is the theoretical framework used for assessing the relation between accurate and inaccurate beliefs about HIV transmission and emotional reactions, stigmatizing attitudes, and the motivation to protect from HIV infection. In the city of Chiang Rai, Thailand, among a heterogeneous population with high risk factors, including men who have sex with men, protection motivation theory was used to look at the role of emotions in the stigmatization process, which shapes belief about HIV transmission. The three emotions examined are fear, anger, and pity. The results were tabulated with the following constructs: severity, vulnerability, response efficacy with regards to condom use and monogamy, self-efficacy with regards to insisting or convincing, and protection motivation with regards to condom use and avoiding casual sex, all in relation to either accurate or inaccurate beliefs about HIV transmission. Snoke and colleagues used the health behavior model construct of perceived susceptibility and perceived severity to examine how shifting perceptions about HIV infection among men who have sex with men have resulted in the increase of high-risk behaviors of homosexual intercourse, and particularly receptive anal sex. Multivariable analyses showed that high perceived severity of HIV infection significantly decreased the likelihood of infection with STDs and HIV. Perceived susceptibility to STDs and HIV infection was not found to be related to infection with STDs or HIV. The major takeaway here is that the perceived severity of HIV results in modification of behavioral practice, resulting in improved health outcomes regarding HIV transmission. That said, researchers found that between 20 and 30% of the men who have sex with men did not consistently use condoms while having anal sex, and avoiding or modifying unprotected receptive anal sex has also been identified as a behavior that significantly reduces risk of HIV infection. In an application of the trans-theoretical model, which references a cross-sectional analysis of condom behavior among men who have sex with men in Missouri, Kentucky, and Rhode Island, Stephen Lee White differentiates data between consistent condom use among men who have sex with men, condom use between men and their main partners, and condom use between men and other partners. Additionally, White conducted research for condom use for both receptive and insertive anal sex. While the complexity of the ins and outs of condom use behavior among men who have sex with men once again becomes evident, White's sample of MSM acknowledges the benefits of condoms for anal sex, decisional balance, having a sense of efficacy in using condoms, situational self-efficacy, and engaging in specific condom use strategies or processes of change, were all positively related to condom use and condom use stages of change. Safran et al. Focus on the importance of self-efficacy for mediating between syndemic conditions and condom use among high-risk men who have sex with men in the New England area. Syndemics are multiple comorbid psychosocial conditions that interact to create increased risk for adverse behavioral outcomes. As such, the researchers confirmed that syndemics do have an indirect effect on condomless sex because of lowered condom use self-efficacy. Huang and colleagues used health behavior model to perform a quantitative analysis on the effectiveness of condom usage for HIV prevention among Chinese men who have sex with men in the province of Sichuan. They analyzed how beliefs associated with consistent condom use among both regular and non-regular partners can help public health promoters in designing targeted intervention strategies. Their results demonstrated the key role of the construct of self-efficacy and cues to action. They recommended mitigating obstructive factors of condom use, improving self-efficacy and building confidence in condom use, and laying out more cues to action to promote consistent condom use behavior with regular and non-regular partners during anal sex. Juan and his colleagues examined how the trans-theoretical model can be used to inform the development of HIV risk reduction counseling sessions. The study was done among men who have sex with men, participants in the city of Nanjing, Jiangsu, China, as a way to analyze the effectiveness of the sessions for decreasing risky sexual behavior. The results of the report indicate effectiveness of the strategy at the 12-month point, but waning effectiveness within the 12 to 18-month interval, thereby suggesting an overall lack of effectiveness. Lee and colleagues used social cognitive theory to determine the effectiveness of community engagement for HIV prevention strategies designed to increase condom use among men who have sex with men in China. The authors found that there was a positive correlation between high peer norms, high self-efficacy, and condom use. However, they do not conclude that there is a direct correlation between self-efficacy and condom use. Rather, given that the Chinese are socialized to adhere to social norms and cultural rules, there is more likely a direct correlation between peer norms and condom use, which in turn increases self-efficacy. Yongao and Wang also used social cognitive theory, among a host of other behavioral change theories, to evaluate a participatory communication strategy for HIV/AIDS prevention among Chinese men who have sex with men in the city of Chengdu, Sichuan, China. The researchers used the constructs of knowledge and self-efficacy in order to develop a highly contextualized and participatory, culturally appropriate diffusion communication model by increasing awareness to promote attitudes and behavioral change. There is particular emphasis on the improvement of safe sex knowledge, while self-efficacy is a key construct in the development of their participatory, people-centered communication model. The results of the evaluation clearly show how the theory-informed intervention strategy increased knowledge and improved attitudes about safe sex, as well as promoting condom use among Chinese men who have sex with men, both casual and regular partners. The first thing to consider in an intervention strategy for condom use among urban men who have sex with men is the social etiology. As indicated above, the ecological model takes into consideration the complexity of health behavior at multiple levels. The proposed strategy begins with awareness at the macrosystemic level, with heteronormative bias within societal and cultural norms in public health, an application of minority stress theory due to inequities around sexual orientation, and an intersectional approach given higher concentrations of poverty among communities of color in urban contexts. Given the stigmatization around such men who have sex with men practices as barebacking and cruising, oftentimes framed as irresponsible and dangerous, it becomes imperative to understand how these practices evolve from a counterpublic health perspective. These are not simply symptoms of debauched desire. Rather, they are evidence of shared intimacies that are the very building blocks for cultural world building, for carving out a public space that the MSM population can call their own amidst a society that rejects, marginalizes, and shames their very existence. As such, intervention strategies are strongest when they build on both the perceived and collective self-efficacy of the population. Epidemiologists took note of a dip in condom use in the 1990s. The heteronormative take on this cited recidivism and noncompliance. However, the public health professional Kane Race cites research that considered sociostructural elements. He notes that during this time, while gay men largely ignored the moral calls for abstinence and monogamy, there was an uptake of prevention strategies grounded in the embodied styles of those at risk, including the use of condoms for anal sex, an expansion of the sexual repertoire in terms of the adoption of relatively safe sexual practices, and negotiated safety. What this amounts to as an intervention strategy is simply a queering of prevention for us, by us, that involves the promotion and distribution of resources that the MSM population embodies themselves and finds valuable. Some of the following are recommended as structural level condom distribution programs by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Wide-scale distribution of condoms free of charge. Promotion and distribution activities at the individual, organizational, and environmental levels. Organizational support for condom distribution and promotion activities in traditional and non-traditional venues. Integrated CDP activities within other community-level intervention approaches to promote condom use and other risk reduction behaviors. An embodied style of intervention takes for granted shared knowledge that is developed through intimate communications and personal encounter, as opposed to scientific data and religious dogmas. It presupposes a collective self-efficacy, which emphasizes a community's perceived ability to shape the environment. But most importantly, it reframes prevention away from heteronormative societal biases and builds on grounded and embodied styles of counter-public negotiation and safety. In closing, all of the above research indicates that an ecological framework for addressing HIV transmission among urban men who have sex with men is imperative. The effectiveness of condom use is impacted at all four of the ecological levels as devised by Bronfenbrenner: microsystem, mesosystem, exosystem, and macrosystem. However, the constructs of social cognitive theory are particularly useful for the implementation of a condom use strategy that builds on the knowledge, perceived self and collective self-efficacy, and socio-structural factors of urban men who have sex with men themselves. I thank you for listening to my presentation today.